What is up, everyone? It's been a while since I've uploaded a video, but I'm back to talk about they, them.
They/them.
Whatever. It is a brand new Peacock original horror film about a group of LGBTQ people that go to a gay conversion camp that has to deal with a lot of psychological torture and a random serial killer that is on the loose. Now, this movie is by no means any good. It is not worth your time watching. You will be bored throughout the entire film. And to be honest, I was going to make a very quick and short review telling you how bad this movie was, and I was going to leave it at that. Until I reached the credits of the movie and I saw who made it. And once I saw that, I immediately had to go in depth with this movie because there is no certifiable reason this movie should be this bad given who is the person that made it. So, that being said, that's what I would like to talk about today. I'm going to go in depth about why I didn't like this movie, why I think it was bad, and why I believe the person who made it should have made something significantly better given their previous history. And last but not least, the biggest question that people are probably going to be asking is, why am I wearing a Grogu t-shirt and a blazer? And to that, I have to say,
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, sweetheart.
They/them follows a trans non-binary person named Jordan. They end up going to a gay conversion camp under a deal with their family in order to be emancipated if they go to the camp for 1 week. There are other characters that are there at the camp for various different reasons. One of them is there because they made a deal with their parents that they can go to a play on Broadway if they go to the camp. One of them is there because their parents refuse to let them see their younger sibling if they don't go. Another is there because they want to write a thesis about how horrible gay conversion camps are. Some are there because they feel that they shouldn't be gay or whatever they may be and want to more or less trick themselves into believing they're something that they're not in order to have their lives feel more normal. And that's more or less what the story is. Those, I can't say kids because they're like from 17 to like 24. It's weird. It's a weird range of age for this movie. But these young adults, I'll say, who go to this camp are psychologically tortured by Kevin Bacon and his gaggle of camp counselors. Meanwhile, there is a serial killer on the loose. And none of this stuff flows well together at all. The serial killer subplot does not meld well with the psychological torture plot of the movie because this movie, in concept, lends more to psychological thriller than it does to a slasher serial killer. Because when you think of a gay conversion camp, you think that people are going to be tortured, whether it be physically or psychologically. So having a psychological thriller, something more akin to Get Out, about a gay conversion camp would be pretty interesting. I would have loved to see that, and that setup in the movie is fantastic. But then every so often we cut to a serial killer that just does randomness that doesn't make any sense, and it's like, what's going on here? And then by the end of the story, when you learn that the serial killer was a former camper who felt their life was ruined by being trapped there for the week that they were there, they want to destroy all gay conversion camps in the world by slowly murdering all of the camp counselors at every conversion camp, which it's not a great plan, if I'm being honest, but it is what it is. I feel like it would have been better if it was just a personal vendetta and they just wanted to kill those counselors in particular instead of them being some sort of vigilante-esque character. I don't know. I just didn't really like the way that story ended. But honestly, there isn't much else to tell you about the story. It's extremely boring the rest of the movie. They get to the camp. At first, everything seems fine and normal. Instead of it being a typical conversion camp where it's all, as they put it,
Bible thumping and queer bashing.
Everyone's nice and accepting of all of their circumstances. Kevin Bacon's first line in the movie is just,
I can't make you straight. I want to make you straight. Gay people are A-okay with me. If you're happy the way you are, then more power to you.
And he presents that charisma throughout the rest of the film, even when it randomly switches up to being a generic conversion camp, and I don't understand what exactly happened. Because for the first half of the movie, it's weird. The characters are being treated nicely, and you don't understand what's going on about how this was supposed to more or less make them normal, and they're like, I don't like this because if it was your stereotypical camp where everyone's mean and preaching the Bible to you, then you would feel more comfortable. But the fact that they're being nice lends this level of eeriness to it, much similar to Get Out. When Get Out first starts, everything is nice, but you always feel like something's off, like things are weird. And then once you get to the halfway point, or like 75%, somewhere around there in They Slash Them, all of a sudden it goes from this weird, creepy thriller to like, nah, we're just a typical gay conversion camp, and they're like very mean and aggressive and torturing the campers and forcing them to do things that they don't want to do. And it's like, what exactly happened? It's like you had an idea for a movie for the first core, and then you immediately abandoned it for something extremely generic. I don't really know what happened there, so it is what it is. The story is extremely bland, and I didn't care for it. All the characters in this movie suck. I'm being completely honest. I didn't really like any of the characters in this movie. The character that I ended up liking the most still wasn't good. None of the characters in this movie go through an arc. They don't have any character development whatsoever, or the arcs that they do go through make absolutely no sense. Perfect example is the jock character. He specifically went to the camp because he's like, I don't want to be gay because my family wants me to be a star football player at college. They want me to be your stereotypical jock frat boy, and he's like, I can't be gay in order to do that. But then at some point during the movie, he just is like, you know what? Nah, I'm just gay and I'm in love with another camper. And it's like, what happened to your character? Where did this come from? The movie establishes him as the jerk character that in a normal movie you would think is going to get murdered. Like a typical horror movie, the jerk character is like, oh yeah, that's the guy that's going to get murdered. You're supposed to dislike them because they're going to die. But then when he's in this movie, he starts off that way. He says a bunch of like harsh things and bigoted things towards the other campers. And then at one point in the movie, this scene significantly infuriates me. All of the main characters, I guess, are bonding to each other, singing Pretty Pretty Please, and he joins in, and it's like, dude, you literally hated everyone here. Like, you actively don't want to be a part of this group. Why are you singing and dancing along with them as if you've been friends with them the entire time? Where did this switch come from? And then he goes back to being a jerk. Like, it doesn't make any logical sense. And that's how all the characters are in this movie. Nothing they do makes any sense whatsoever. They're just kind of like, I'm here to serve a purpose in the plot, or I'm here to fill up space, because holy crap, there are so many useless characters in this movie. Like, they show that there are a ton of campers at this camp, and only like a handful of them get any sort of screen time. And I know what you're thinking right now. It's like, well, it's a summer camp. There's supposed to be a bunch of people, and, you know, the main characters are going to be the core that we focus on. No, that is not the case here. They just don't do anything with these characters, because a perfect parallel is that in the movie Fear Street Part 2, that takes place at a summer camp, and it felt natural. There are other people at the camp doing their own thing, and it focused on a small group of characters. I felt like that was a real camp with other people there. This camp feels like these small group of people are the only people at the camp until you see a shot or like a random character pass by in the background, and it's like, where did you come from? And the reason why it feels that way is because this is a gay conversion camp. They're all supposed to be going through the same level of torture and discomfort. It's not a regular camp where they're free to just roam around and do random fun activities. And that's why this feels off, is that they could have just cut out all of those other characters and been like, okay, this is a group of like 5 to 6 people that were sent to this camp, and they have to deal with this and escape together. That would have been perfectly fine, instead of having all these random background characters that don't have any lines. There are so many characters in this movie that are just set dressing, and they don't say anything. They don't have any names. It's like, what are you here for? What are you doing here? You don't do anything to support the plot. The most these background characters do is at the very end, when the trans black woman has to guide them all out of the camp. And even then, it's like, she could have just escaped on her own. Like, That would have been perfectly fine. She didn't have to save all of these people. And quick tangent, this line is god awful.
Honey, please. I'm a black transgender woman. I could do it in heels.
You serious?
I just, like, why? I think probably the most well-written character is Jordan. They are the main character, and they have the foundation to be a really good final person of a horror movie. However, because this movie is god-awful, they don't get that chance. So even the moment where they are the last person standing, it doesn't really merit anything. And it especially doesn't merit anything because...
Heroes never die.
know how this draft of the movie got off the writing room floor. I do not understand how you can make a slasher horror film where none of the main characters die. Now, when I say main characters, I mean a collective of people that we learn information about. None of them die. The only people that die are the camp counselors, and they're all the bad guys. Now, it makes sense by the end of the movie because the serial killer is one of the former campers and they want revenge against the counselors. That makes sense. I completely understand that. However, that completely ruins the aspect of this being a slasher movie, because the idea of a slasher movie is you don't know who's going to die. So you're watching these characters and you're like, oh man, I hope they figure out what's going on. I hope they escape because I like this character. Or I hate this character. I want them to die. That's what makes slasher movies work so well, is that you have this connection to the characters, whether it be love or hatred, and you want to see the killer either miss and have those characters escape or brutally murder them because you want to see them die. But in this movie, all the heroes survive. The worst that happens is that one of them gets electrocuted, but they're fine by the end of the movie. They just get taken to the hospital and everything's fine. And it's like, why would you do this? There's no tension in the movie because of that. And it felt like they were self-aware that the slasher was kind of a backdrop in the movie because they're barely in the movie. The majority of the movie just follows these young adults at this camp basically doing nothing. They're talking, they're learning surface level information that we as the audience already know. Like, there's a scene where Jordan comes to a realization that, oh my god, they torture people at this gay conversion camp, and it's like, Jordan, just come here real quick. But are you stupid? Seriously, are you dumb? Like, how did you not know that? It's a gay conversion camp. This is the 21st century. This movie takes place in present day. Have you never read a newspaper? Have you never opened up an article online? Why is this so shocking to you? Like, you even said earlier in the movie that you were shocked that there wasn't a lot of Bible thumping and aggressiveness. So why exactly are you so shocked that they torture people here? Please.
Explain! Explain! Explain!
Since none of the main characters die, which granted, on first watch, you do not know that these characters are all going to survive in the end. But the problem is that since the killer isn't around doing anything to actively harm any of the characters except the counselors, you figure it out super quick. Like, they kill the groundskeeper at first, and it's like, alright, that's fine. They killed the groundskeeper. But then the killer's not around. They don't kill any of the campers, and then the next people they kill are two other counselors. And as soon as that happens, you immediately realize, oh, they're only murdering the camp counselors. They're not going to kill any of the kids. Especially since it didn't help. There was a scene where two of the characters were alone out in the woods, and the serial killer just shows up and like T-poses on them, and it's like, okay, I don't understand, but cool. So there isn't any tension in the movie. The best scene in the movie is probably the scene where Kevin Bacon tries to force one of the campers to shoot a dog. That was a really good scene. The only reason that scene is good is because of Kevin Bacon. He really just like gave all of his acting chops into that one scene, and it's like, okay, yeah, I like this. This is a pretty good scene. I like this. There's actual tension and emotion in this scene, but outside of that, the rest of the movie has no tension because the killer isn't killing any of the people that we care about. No one cares about the evil sleazebag gay conversion therapy, whatever the hell you want to call them, camp counselors. No one cares about them. If they die, everyone's going to be happy about it. No one has any emotional stake in it. And that's a huge problem. If you're going to have a slasher in a movie, they need to slash them. It's in the frickin' title of the movie. They slash them. If they are not slashing them, what's the point of them being in the movie? You might as well have just had this as a straight up psychological thriller where they're mentally tortured the entire movie. I feel like if they would have just really harkened down on that, that would have been fine. But instead, you show me a killer, and then you proceed not to kill anyone in the movie. I swear, there is a scene, as I mentioned earlier, where everyone's singing that song. That is a scene where I expected the stupid jock character to die. I thought that when they all started singing and they started bonding, he was going to be like, oh, piss off. I hate all of you. I hate this. I don't want to deal with this. And then he would have stormed off to like go shower or take a piss in the woods or something stupid. And then he would have got murdered. That's what I was expecting to happen. Or I was expecting later on in the movie where two of the characters, they start to hook up by the lake, right? They make a joke. Granted, it's because Kevin Bacon was in the movie. One of the characters, she's like,
I keep expecting Jason Voorhees to come out of these woods. Who?
Bruh.
and then they start hooking up afterwards, which really weird segue into hooking up, but whatever, go off queens. And honestly, I was expecting the killer to show up there as like a joke and then they were gonna die, because that would have been really funny that they call out Jason Voorhees and then a killer shows up while they're distracted and having sex and murders them. That would have been really, really funny and a great kill in the movie. But they didn't do it because it felt like someone was like, hey, you can't kill any of the main characters because reasons. And it's like, what the hell, man? The whole point of this is that they're supposed to die. You're supposed to be interested in it because they're supposed to die. As I recently watched all of the Scream movies, it made me sad when the character of Randy died because I loved him. However, he still died because it's a slasher movie. Characters die in slasher movies, and they wanted to show you that the stakes were real, so they killed off one of the main characters. It hit hard. So why does this movie not get that concept? It's super weird and frustrating that they do not understand that very simple concept of slasher movies need to slash the innocents in the movie. I don't get it. I don't, please.
Explain! Explain! Explain!
Okay, as I mentioned, this is the reason why I decided to make this video in the first place. It is specifically because of the man that made this movie. That man right there. That man had no business making this movie this bad, given his previous filmography. Now, granted, this is the first movie that he has both written and directed. It's his directorial debut. That's fine. But also, rip that this is your directorial debut, bruh. That's, yikes. But this man has worked on some fantastic and iconic movies that have come out over the course of my entire life. And I don't understand how his movie was written so poorly, given what he's worked on before. This is a man who was a writer on Gladiator, Rango, Skyfall, and Spectre. Like, how did you work on and make such fantastic movies, and then you got to this, and you were just like, meh. Like, I can't comprehend how this happened, man. Like, I've seen all of those movies that I just mentioned. They're all fantastic. They're incredible movies that have broken their way into classic territory. Like Gladiator. Do you know how people love Gladiator? My dad loved Gladiator. It is one of his, like, favorite movies of all time. he made me watch it with him because he loved it so much. Rango, I still remember going to see Rango when I was a kid in theaters. It was such a fantastic movie. Skyfall and Spectre, man, those are some of the best in Daniel Craig's run as 007. So, what happened here, dude? Where did all of that talent go from all of those years and years of making these fantastic movies? What did you do? Seriously, like, I don't get it. Like, how did you end up writing something this bad? Because you know how to write good things. You've written multiple good things in the past, or at the very least have been a writer, a part of a team that wrote something iconic. So, what's the deal, bro? Did you forget to take pills that day when you wrote the script? I don't understand. How did you end up with this? Seriously, I genuinely want an answer. It baffles me because this movie should have been good, and it feels like he had a really interesting concept, but either there was no one to fact check him and tell him when things were bad, or there was studio interference. I have no idea, but it feels like something went wrong in the writing of this script. Because as I mentioned earlier, the core concept of a horror film that takes place at a gay conversion camp that is a psychological thriller could have been awesome. Like I said, it could have been something akin to Get Out, where all of the people go there, they're experiencing all of this torture, everything seemed normal at first. That especially works really well. The fact that he wrote in that these counselors are nice to the campers when they first get there, as opposed to what you would expect of them saying slurs and being aggressive, that was a really good idea. And I thought that's what they were going to go with the whole movie, that the counselors were going to be super nice, and then it was going to cause the characters in question to question themselves. Like, these people are really accepting of who I am. Am I doing the right thing? I don't know.
You're not even a freak. You're nothing. So what do? You try to make yourself special. So they'll see you. So they'll notice you. So they'll love you. You become they.
They could have had drugs and other elements to mess with their heads, and I think that would have been really great. But they just squander that, and then they become super generic with a horrible twist at the end. And it's like, what happened exactly? I just don't get it. Seriously, I really want to understand what happened. Like, this dude has made so many movies that I've loved throughout my whole life, or at the very least worked on so many movies that I've loved throughout my whole life. So it's really painful to see him falter to this degree. I just don't know what happened, man. I really hope whatever you work on next is fantastic, because I know you can do great things. I just really want to know what happened.
That's alright. Welcome to my city.
At the end of the day, I really can't recommend you watch They/Them. It is not good at all. I do think that the actors in the movie did try and do a great job, especially the actor that played Jordan. I think they were pretty solid, and in a movie with a better script, I think they can really shine as a protagonist. However, in this, they didn't really get much to work with. It's really disappointing. I really think this movie had a strong foundation, but it was just squandered by a very lackluster script. And that truly is a shame, because it could have been great. Well, honestly, I think that's all I have to say today. So, thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, like, comment, subscribe, share with people, all that YouTuber nonsense. And remember, folks, I'm the innocent villain, and you're innocent until proven villainous, and I'll catch you in the next one.